McCrary. Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-72. Back at SportsTalkSC.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Even the doctors, and before I went and got my MRI, they thought it was a muscle strain. So for it to come out, the results be like that, obviously it wasn't the way it planned, but I mean, God's got a bigger plan for me.
I don't pay any attention to it. Of course, I see it because I'm on social media and people kind of tweet at me or post things, and I kind of see it, because it pops up. But as far as me directing, trying to look for it, I don't pay any attention to it.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into a busy night of Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Clark Schmidt meeting with the media today for the first time since his elbow injury a week ago tonight down in Gainesville, Florida, pitching for the Gamecocks against the Gators. Came out of that game. They were hoping it was nothing more than a strain. Turned out to be a torn ligament in the elbow, and today was the first time that he met with the media over at Founders Park, part of the lead-in to tomorrow's opening game of weekend series against Kentucky for the Gamecocks, a crucial series for South Carolina this weekend. We'll hear from Clark Schmidt coming up in just a few minutes. Boy, you feel terrible for him, but he has an upbeat approach. He understands that the elbow can be fixed. He is still young enough to recover quickly and move on with his baseball career. Feeling is, among many, is he'll still remain a very high draft choice for the baseball draft maybe this summer. And then he can sign with the pro team and begin his rehab and work towards his career in professional baseball. He is going to New York on Tuesday. He'll have surgery on Wednesday. They have chosen the Mets team doctor, who is a disciple of Dr. James Andrews, to do the surgery up in New York. So that is the latest there. As far as anything else with Gamecock baseball, they just have to get some timely hits and get some timely pitches. That is, you heard from Chad Holbrook last night here on the program, and again today. He spoke with the media, and pretty much the theme is the same. They're right there. They're right there. They just have to make that important pitch and get that big hit, and they can win some of these big games heading down the stretch.
Well, if they get the pitch, they don't need to hit. They'd have won about 4 or 5 more games if they just get the right pitch. I still contend they're getting too much of the plate in late innings. You don't even give a guy a chance. Talking to Clark Schmidt, the interesting thing is everybody looks at Dr. James Andrews, and I think Dr. Frank Jobe was into that too. That the next big thing for doctors now is to look at a kid's body type and then tell him later on as he gets older what kind of delivery he needs to throw so you won't have arm problem. You look at a Greg Maddux and a Tom Glavine who threw hard enough, but they weren't flamethrowers. And then you look at John Smoltz on that staff. He was the flamethrower. And guess who had the arm surgeries? It was the flamethrower. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see if later on, a lot of these doctors, orthopedic surgeons try to do preventive stuff. I know it'll take a lot of money out of their pockets not to do all these surgeries, but to just look at a guy's build and kind of explain to him what would be best for him as far as delivery is concerned. Remember Tom Seaver, before all the intricate surgeries happened, Seaver had such a strong lower body that he tended to use that more than his arm, and he lasted a long time throwing it. So future, because I hate to see these guys tear their arms up early.
Well, if you're a baseball pitcher, it can happen to you anytime and for no good reason. He had not been feeling any pain leading up to the moment. He didn't feel a snap in the elbow. He just thought it was a strain, and it turned out to be the complete tear. So it just happens to pitchers. I think every pitcher knows that from the point when they start throwing curveballs and various breaking pitches and putting that additional strain on the elbow. with force that could happen to them at any moment. There's no rhyme or reason. I mean, sometimes there is a gradual deterioration, and it happens, and then sometimes it just happens, boom, just like an ACL in your knee. So, unfortunately, it happened to him and his family. This is a family that had to deal in 2015 with cancer with his brother, who was pitching at Clemson, and, of course, he overcame that and resumed his career. So his approach, his mental prognosis is very good. His approach to this is very good, very positive. Yeah, when he got the news on Monday with Will Crowe sitting next to him, and Will, of course, gone through the same thing, it hit him like a ton of bricks. And certainly it was a very emotional and tough time for him. But I think he's past that now. He'll be the best support player he can be and cheerleader he can be for his teammates, and hope that can help as the Gamecocks try to move forward. Will Crowe, of course, now will move up to be the Friday starter. Adam Hill will be the Saturday starter, and it remains to be seen who will be the Sunday starter for the Gamecocks. It all depends on what arms are available after they get through the first two games. So we'll hear from Clark in minutes. We are also going to hear from Monty Lee tonight, the Clemson baseball coach. The Tigers are in Chapel. They have a huge series this weekend with North Carolina. These are two of the top teams in their respective divisions in the ACC, and they have been playing some hot baseball of late, and they will square off for 3 starting tomorrow night. The Tar Heels 31-9, 16-5 in ACC play. And the Tigers are 30. All right, I got to get my updated stats here. Hang on just a second to make sure I'm correct on this. The Tar Heels 33-9, 16-5. The Tigers 34-8, 16-5. So great matchup here. Two teams with very good pitching, good offense, and good speed. And they both play when North Carolina plays a superior defense, and Clemson's defense has been improved this year, better than it has been in recent years. So a real challenge this weekend for Clemson and for North Carolina, both ways. I mean, this is high-level baseball taking place in Chapel Hill. Clemson going in a game behind Louisville in the Atlantic Division. The Tar Heels lead the Coastal. They have pretty good advantage over Virginia. They're 16-5. Virginia is so that's safe for the Tar Heels over Virginia in the Coastal Division. So we saw North Carolina, of course, in person when they played the midweek game. They just that particular night, their offense was on fire. Speaking of offense, the Gamecocks will see a terrific one this weekend in Kentucky, the number one offensive team in the SEC. So Gamecock pitching is definitely going to be tested, and the availability of Tyler Johnson will be important. You heard what Coach Holbrook said on the program last night, that the medical staff doesn't want him used in back-to-back days at this particular time. So how they manage that and how they use their bullpen against this very good Kentucky offense is going to be key. Kentucky as a team batting .315 coming in. Of course, South Carolina's pitching has been good, 3.17 ERA for the Gamecocks to a 3.46 for Kentucky. So that should be an excellent series in Columbia. We're also hoping tonight with Gary Gilmore, Coastal Carolina coach. They are on the practice field waiting for confirmation from down at Coastal that we'll have him available here for a few minutes coming up at the bottom of the hour. Mike Morgan will be along tonight. Morgan on the move. And, of course, we know it is draft night. It's finally here. Report out of Cleveland by a reporter for the Plain Dealer is the Browns will draft Myles Garrett with the number 1 overall pick. There was some talk earlier today that Mitchell Trubisky would go number 1 to the Browns, but apparently they're going to stick with the plan and go with a defensive end. Who will go first between Watson and Trubisky? That'll be worth watching. Back in a moment. right, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Yeah, Deshaun Watson, he's going to be ticked off if he's not the number one quarterback picked. And he's been telling people the last week or so, there'll be payback. It'll be a slap in my face if Trubisky's picked ahead of me. He's just citing his history, his resume. And look, the dude is a winner no matter how you cut it. Look at his record at Clemson as a starter. How many games did he lose in a game in which he started? The national championship game in 2016 against Alabama that first time, and that would be 1. The Pittsburgh game this past season would be 2. I mean, it's not hard to recall them. They haven't lost very much the last couple of years. I think he has, just the 2 losses? Oh, why are you telling me 3? Who's the third one? Georgia Tech. Yeah,
but technically, he got hurt early in that
technically
game.
It goes down as his start, but we all know it wasn't his fault that they lost that game. If he'd have stayed healthy, they'd have won that game in a romp. But anyway, the guy's a winner. He's got the size. He's got the arm. He's got the smarts. I don't know what you're looking for in a quarterback, but it's a crapshoot. No matter how you turn it, it is a crapshoot. Sometimes you make the right call, and sometimes it blows up in your face. Baseball this afternoon, the Braves, up in New York and putting a whipping on the Mets. The Mets all of a sudden have hit the Braves 1-5 up at Citi Field, and 7-0 for the Braves. 5-8 and 1 and Suzuki 3-run homer for the Braves off of Harvey, and the Braves. It's a Mets team that's struggling. Cespedes is hurt with a hamstring. Syndergaard was scratched with right biceps discomfort. So the Mets 7 in a row. Longest,
I think
no,
it's
6 in a row. Right. 6 in a row. Longest streak since losing 7 in a row back in 2015.
I believe Syndergaard. They shouldn't have 6-game losing streak.
Earlier today over at Founders Park, it was meet the media time for Gamecock baseball. Chad Holbrook, several players, including starting pitcher, number 1 pitcher Clark Schmidt, out for the rest of the season, probably done with his USC career with a torn ligament in his pitching elbow. He suffered it a week ago tonight in the game against Florida. This is the first time that he has spoken to the media since, and he shares his thoughts about his current situation.
Well, I mean, obviously it's devastating for me. I mean, I wasn't expecting that when I went to the doctor that morning. I mean, everyone thought it was going to be a muscle strain or something with the forearm, but obviously everything didn't go as planned. I mean, it's a tough blow, a tough pill to swallow, but I mean, I'm going to have worse things in my life, and I'm going to have better things in my life. I mean, it's going to be a long, and I'm ready to go get rehab so I can start to go after it. I had to deal with my brother who had cancer at 21, so I think that I have for the rest of my life, and I'll be all right. So, I mean, I'm ready for the long road ahead, and I'm ready to get after things, and I'm going to treat the rehab process like every Friday night game and go out there and attack each day and try to get better and get back to where I can get back out on the mound and compete again. So I'm ready to get things going.
What did you feel on the mound on Thursday night?
No pop, nothing crazy pain, nothing like that, just tightness really. So it was a weird case. I mean, even the doctors, and before I went and got my MRI, they thought it was a muscle strain. So for it to come out, the results be like that, obviously it wasn't the way it planned, but I mean, God's got a bigger plan for me, and He's blessed me with this wonderful platform and this talents and the support system I had, the fans, everybody who reached out to me, that was awesome. And so for me to be able to have this position, I mean, God's put it in my life the best I can and continue to glorify Him. So I mean, I'm thankful, and I'm still gonna be happy and treat my life like I'm very blessed and in a very good position in my life. So I'm gonna get ready for the rehab process ahead and ready to get back out there.
Faith right now.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, when you have a position like this and you feel like everything is going your way, and then next thing you know, you get a blow to the ribs. It's kind of like you got to rely on Him. I mean, He's God's. I mean, to be in this position I am, people would die to be where I am. I was a 21-year-old kid pitching in SEC on Friday night, so I've been extremely blessed, and I'm extremely thankful. And my faith hasn't changed at all, hasn't deterred at all. I'm still extremely thankful in Him, and He is much bigger than my problems. So I mean, like I said earlier, if this is the biggest thing that happens in my life, then I'll be all right. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna get ready for the rehab process and continue to go at it each day like it's a Friday night game, and go out there and compete and get back to where I can get back on the mound.
Has it also hit you that, in all likelihood, you pitched your last game for South Carolina?
Well, I mean, obviously, I have to talk to my family about the draft process. I mean, it's kind of been a week full of a lot of emotions and stuff like that. So nobody knows exactly what I'm going to do. But I mean, right now the main focus is on the team and helping these guys out. I talked to the younger guys, and it was tough having to address the team and let them know the situation at hand. And when I had to tell them Monday morning, it was tough. And I pulled some of the younger guys aside, and I wanted to talk to them and let them know that they got to step up. I mean, someone's got to take a big role and get some innings under their belt and being so used to. So, I mean, my job is to be here and cheering as loud as I can and helping these guys and lead these guys. I'm still a leader on this team, and I still have a major impact off the field. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep them in the right way. And I think that if they think they can still win, some people are going to be counting them out now that they don't have one of their case. I mean, we had enough talent in the beginning without me to go out there and still win. I think that's the main message I told these guys, that you guys can still win with or without me, and I'll be doing everything I can off the field to help them.
Who were some of those young guys you pulled aside and talked with?
Colby was one of them. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. Colby, Cody, Sawyer, all those guys. I mean, they got to get ready for a position that they're not used to. I mean, I was kind of thrown in the fire my freshman year and had to be a weekend starter as a freshman, and so that kind of set me up to help them out in this position I'm in. And I want to tell them that they can. I mean, any pitcher on the staff has the talent to go out there and get outs on a weekend. That's not the question. It's really just a mental warfare kind of when you're out there. It's kind of tough when you're going out there and facing SEC lineup for the first time, especially on a weekend start. So, but a lot of these guys, they can do it. I mean, anybody can go out there and get out. So they got to be ready for everything, especially this weekend against a good lineup like that.
Have you guys thought about who you want to do the surgery, where it'll take place?
I talked to my family. It was obviously it's a hard discussion. Everyone's with the success rate of the surgery. That's like the good part now. It's so high now. It just depends on how you do your rehab, and if you do it right, then if you're coming back or not. So I think I'm going to go to Dr. Alchek in New York. He's the Mets team doctor and surgeon. So we got a lot of recommendations from him, and he's supposed to be the top of the best. So he worked under Dr. Andrews, obviously. And so we're going to go to him. I think I'm flying out to New York on Tuesday and plan on getting surgery, going under the knife on Wednesday.
How much has Will helped you?
Big. I mean, even Will, Coley, John, all the people who've been through this, Tommy John, it's special to see that their support staff, and they instantly took me under their arms and said, hey, it's a long process, but I mean, if you do it the right way and you do the rehab the right way, you're going to come back better, if not, or good at just as much as you were, and if not better, especially with everyone coming back. I mean, you look at the results and everybody's coming back better than they were before. So that's my outlook on it. I get a new arm, and I get a new pitch count on my arm. So I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to get back out there. It's going to be fun. I mean, obviously it's going to be a long battle, but I'm treating this like it's a long off season. So I'm itching to get back out there already.
All right, there you go. And you got to admire his upbeat attitude. You know, that's a good approach to take too, Pro, if you're a pitcher. He's getting all new pitches in his arm. You know, pitchers look at their arm as having a finite number of pitches in it. They know at some point in time they're going to throw their last pitch. You're only going to get out infinite. And the belief is brand new ligament in there, done properly rehabbed. It's like having a brand new elbow, and you wipe the slate clean and start over with a whole new batch of pitches in that arm.
Hopefully.
You have to look at it somewhat.
First thing I think about is what they still use the cadaver ligament, or they take one out of your leg.
We didn't go that far with him.
Okay. You know. They could do one of a few things. I think Tommy John, the original, I think it was a cadaver, but now I think they take some muscle tissue out of some other part of the body. So depending on how much damage the arm is.
Yeah. Well, sounds like he's got a very solid doctor to go to, and they got a good plan, and we wish him the best. And it's just too bad that he's thrown his last pitch for the Gamecocks, because this is a guy that was not all that heralded coming in, and made himself into an All-American pitcher. And boy, with a little more run support this year, has been even better, but the ERA speaks for itself. All right, coming up, we've got Morgan on the move next here on Sports Talk. Have I mentioned how good last night was for the Corn? On one television, I've got the Celtics beats. On the other television, or my iPad, I've got the Yankees beating the Red Sox simultaneously. It doesn't get any better.
They play the Red Sox 30 times this year like they usually do.
19 times.
God, boy.
But we got number one, and you can't take it away from us. Let's hit the phones. Welcome in for his Thursday visit with us here on Sports Talk, Mike Morgan. Another exciting edition of Morgan on the Move, brought to you by Play It Again Sports in Columbia. Everything you need in the way of golf equipment, fitness equipment, water sports, and more. Bauer Parkway in Harbison. You can buy, sell, and trade. And by Founders Federal Credit Union, check out foundersfcu.com. Learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. All right, Mike joins us now. And first of all, how devastating is the loss of Clark Schmidt?
It's an obvious answer, but when you consider the fact that it is a team that is not overly proficient on offense, it's a team that, as I said last week, I thought if they were going to make a run, they're going to have to do it based on pitching, and they've got just enough hitting, particularly if Cortez continues to swing a hot bat, that I've seen teams with less offense go to Omaha and even win a national championship. But in order to do that, you do have to have dominating pitching. Now, they still have more good arms than most teams in college baseball, so it's not as if, you know, it's crippling to the point where they can't go out there and compete, but obviously it takes away what I as their best, just great pitching, but pitching depth. There's a lot of teams out there that have a really good number one, maybe a good number one, number two. They had a really good number one, number two, number three, and a shutdown closer. And that's a very rare combination in college baseball when you have 11.7 scholarships.
Gamecocks going to a huge weekend series against Kentucky. We had Chad on with us last night. Obviously, it's been a tough time for him. They've lost 4 straight league series. They could have won any of the 4, if not all of the 4. Then you lose your number one starter. So it's been kind of pile on time in many different ways. They could come out of this weekend tied for the lead in the division if they win their games and things break their way. So, again, this is a team that is, though it's underperformed based on preseason expectations, it is still right there.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, maybe it's time for us to point out the fact that preseason expectations are often wrong. You know, I don't know. I don't know if they should have been a top 5, top 10 team in the preseason based on that offense. I think that was based so much on their pitching staff and kind of figuring, well, you know, they've been recruiting well, so some of those young bats will come around and some of the returning guys will improve. And that hasn't necessarily been the case to the extent that would warrant a top 5 ranking. But your point is still valid. I mean, they're still very much in the thick of things. Kentucky is a team I have had 4 times now, and I said this back in March when they were completely off the radar. Remember now, it's a preseason team that was picked, I believe, 5th in its own division. Preseason hype on him. A first-year head coach in Mingione who has done an exceptional job. He's one of those guys that there is a psychological it factor that you can't help but notice when you talk to him. It's palpable. And his team is legit. I think a lot of people looked at that early record and said, yeah, well, it's Kentucky and who they played and this and that. They're legit, folks. Their lineup, to me, is the deepest. I don't know if it's the best. It's the deepest in the SEC, and I don't think that part's even close. And then 3 good starting, and they've got a lights-out closer in Salo. So I think it'll be a great matchup, a great series. It doesn't have the same hype as, say, a matchup with Florida or Vanderbilt or LSU. But trust me, folks, Kentucky is for real.
Yeah, 312 batting average. They lead the SEC. Once that away from home, they're under 500. They're 8-9 away from their friendly confines. Maybe that will somehow work in South Carolina. Wildcat playing.
It should be. I mean, if you
Favor the
fans there, give or take, it's still overall one of the toughest places to play at in the country. And you've got a team that knows its back's up against the wall. I'm sure Chad, with the latest adversity with the injury, we kind of played the, hey, nobody thinks we can do this card. You know, backs are against the wall. Everybody's counting us out. Injury after injury, et cetera, et cetera. Try to use that to your advantage. Win anyway. But at some point, the team obviously has to figure out a way to win those close games, and that's been the Achilles heel of the Gamecocks all year long.
Yeah, the ninth inning, too. You look at their numbers in the ninth inning, runs for, runs against, one-sided against them, and you can see where they have had games get away from them like that, or their inability to catch up when trailing after 8 innings is something else that's one-sided against them. Look, everybody knows you and Ray Tanner. You go way back. You know him extremely well. You know his thinking on a lot of different subjects. You know how to read him extremely well. I mean, my feeling is, even if this team does not progress very far in the postseason, I don't think Ray is the type to have a quick reaction here and do understands what's gone through with this team this season and has no interest in making a change at the helm of his baseball program.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I take exception. Anybody thinks that, you know, because of some type of a relationship with Chad, you know, they do know each other quite well. Knew each other before he ever came to South Carolina. That would stand in the way of making an objective decision on what to do. I don't think that's the case at all. I think the bigger case is if he does get to the postseason again, it would be the 4th time in 5 years with 2 supers. And I think Ray also knows something that maybe some people have forgotten, and that is it's really hard to get to Omaha. I don't care who you are. You know, I remember I was there for that 02, 03, 04 World Series run. That team in a row, a couple of SEC championships, a national championship game, and a Final Four. And everybody thought, well, it's okay. We've done it. We've broken the seal, and now we're going to go to Omaha every year. Then 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9 came along, and it was all of a sudden, well, what's going on? What's wrong here? Mm-hmm. That was inevitable. No matter who the coach was going to be, you don't win back-to-back national championships and just keep going to the national championship game. It's a little more competitive than that. So I think if you looked at it objectively and you saw the nucleus of those 3 World Series teams in 10, 11, 12, you knew that there was going to be a little bit of a slide. And you try to get back to that point, but it's surely not easy. Just ask LSU and just ask Paul Maneri. So I think you, as an AD, particularly one that knows baseball, and Ray Tanner is one of the few in the country that actually knows college baseball in that chair, you take all those things into consideration and realize there's still a lot of good in that program, despite the fact that I think a lot of people just expect to be in Omaha every year.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. Clemson at North Carolina tonight. Big ACC showdown, 2 of the top teams in that league. How do you like the Tigers match up with the Tar Heels?
I mean, I think it's 2 of the premier teams in the country right now. You know, the ACC has certainly made strides. They got that monkey off the back a few years ago with Virginia winning a national title, and obviously Clemson has kind of picked up with some of the momentum from last year. They win the ACC tournament. Now they've, you know, it's not just a one-man show in beer. And North Carolina, I mean, they're back to being North Carolina. They had a little bit of a dip now. Keep that in mind. They had a dip too for a while. They go to back-to-back national championship series. They lose both of them, and then all of a sudden they stop going. But now they look like they have a team that could certainly be Omaha bound. So should be an exceptional series.
Reed Roman in particular, a guy who's just knocking the cover off the ball for Clemson here of late, got his average up over 400. We're going to hear from Monty Lee coming up after the top of the hour.
Or the award-winning Sports Talk program.
Hang on, Mike. We'll come back a little more if anyway, so you got nowhere to go. And we'll be back. Morgan on the Move coming up. We are back, Sports Radio Network, visiting Oregon on the move. Here on Sports Talk, Braves won today up in New York. And you know, a little up and down for them for the April, a little stadium, then went kind of stale, but gone up to New York and won a couple of games. What's your early impression? Anything at all to get caught up in, or is this going to be one of those get through seasons till more of the youngsters arrive from the farm?
Through season. Last year was we have no chance. We are completely overmatched. Game in, game out, series in, series out. It was a lame duck manager, a lame duck ballpark. It was just like a pass. It was almost like the season never even happened. This year, I do think anybody's postseason, I think they can actually compete. And when you go to the ballpark, which is beautiful here in Atlanta, you're going to see a team that to be excited about, whether it's Freddie Freeman and Horns or some of the younger stars like a Dansby Swanson or Enciarte. They've got some things to build upon now. Now, there's still work to be done. Picks come from 2-3 years ago to the very best. So that's what all these deals were all about. Mm-hmm. So at least now there is some hope on the horizon, whereas a few years ago it didn't look very good.
But it was mop-up duty. But are they still have hope for Whistler somehow, somewhere getting back into the rotation at some point?
Yeah, Whistler and Newcomb are two guys that obviously were very highly touted. They gave up quite a bit in those 2 trades to get them, but they have not lived up to the hype as of this point. Whistler's had more opportunities than Newcomb has, but they just have to prove that they can be consistent at the big league level. And until they, neither one of them you want as relievers. I mean, those are guys you hope will be part of the rotation in the near future. Until they put 5 quality starts, then I think the jury is still out. I think they still have a lot to prove, because you can't just go out there, look decent one day, get blown up the next, get blown up again, and then look mediocre the 4th time. You have to be a little more consistent than that if you're going to be a major league rotation guy.
Mike, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you this question, so I'm sure you'll understand, but I'll tread lightly because it's about your employer. And, of course, big news in the sports world yesterday and still trickling through today, the layoffs by ESPN of some very well-known people. I'm just your thoughts. I mean, you're on the play-by-play side, so that's a great thing for you. A lot of great reporters and editorial-type people being let go. Can you offer an opinion, or is that someplace you don't want to venture into?
I can say there's some really good analysts, people like Danny Cannell, who I've worked with on football and baseball, people like Doug Glanville, not only just a great analyst, but a great human being. These are all guys in the booth. So yesterday was a difficult time for the people that got laid off, but I knew a lot of these people. So it's difficult. I don't have much more insight other than to say that, you've been working in radio now, and I've worked in radio and TV now. And, when you're working in the corporate world, like the rest of America does, these things happen. It's just the nature of the beast. We all hate to see it happen. But it is certainly part of it. You just hope that all those people, so many of them are really, really talented people, will catch on and land somewhere else.
Yeah. I didn't realize till I saw it this afternoon that Andy Katz was among the get the ticket. And I mean, my gosh, we're talking about the guy that brought more outside of Vitale. He probably did more behind the scenes college basketball stuff for ESPN than anybody else.
And I just worked with Andy and Vitale in Orlando for the Advocare tournament back in November. It's my first chance to ever work with Andy. And again, a pro's pro and a super guy who I have no doubt will catch on with somebody. And that is the one, silver lining to all of it, is that I know there's enough out there, and so many of these people are so talented that they will catch on and have other opportunities. So if you can find take solace in anything, any piece of good news and all of that, that would certainly be it.
All right. You want to venture a guess as to the first quarterback taken tonight?
Trubinsky. Doesn't mean I agree with it.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is a guy I voted for the Heisman Trophy. I think a lot of people are saying they voted for Deshaun Watson after the fact.
Yeah.
I did vote for him over Lamar Jackson. I realize he doesn't fit all of everything that the NFL scouts look for, but he'd be my guy. Now, that doesn't mean he's a slam dunk either. I'm not sure if any of these quarterbacks are going to be Pro Bowlers. I have questions about all of them. I think part of the problem is, I've said this before, college coaches are running, and this might sound harsh, they're running a dumbed-down offense by NFL standards. So a lot of these kids don't know how to read a defense at the NFL level the way the scouts want them to, and that's why they either fall in the draft or they're drafted highly and then they turn out. The thing about this, his work ethic is so good, his intangibles are so good. There's not a bad thing about the kid himself that I know, at least I know if I draft him, he's going to do everything in his power to be ready, and he's not going to do anything stupid. So that makes me feel better about investing millions of dollars in him.
Yeah. Well, look, the NFL is so smart, Rodgers wouldn't have dropped like he did, and Brady wouldn't have been around in the 6th round like he was. So they're not all that,
No.
Sometimes you just get lucky.
You know what? In fairness to them, guys, I think the hardest thing to draft in any sport is an NFL quarterback. It is the hardest thing to project whether or not their skill set is going to translate to the next level. It's not like if you saw LeBron James play basketball, you'd have a pretty good idea he was going to be good in the NBA. if you saw Bryce Harper play college baseball, you had a pretty good idea he'd be able to do it in the show. Running backs, we knew Adrian Peterson would work out well, but there's something about the quarterback spot that it is the hardest thing to project. I wouldn't want to have to make my living guessing right on that. We see them get it wrong all the time, and they're going to get it wrong tonight on a couple of these quarterbacks that'll be taken.
Well, that's why I say, Mike, I'd rather have a quarterback drafted low, like the kid from Mississippi State, and go to a team that's good like Dallas, rather than pick a Deshaun Watson and throw him in Cleveland and feed him to the dogs, literally, with no offensive line, no running game, receivers that's questionable, and then they get eaten alive mentally, and they're no good because they've been thrown to the wolves too quickly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Look, a quarterback needs help. We all know that. And if you're going to a really bad NFL team with a bad line, I remember Troy Aikman's rookie year in Dallas in 1989, basically playing with an expansion team. Troy Aikman did not look like a Hall of Fame quarterback because he had nothing around him. We all know he turned into a Hall of Fame quarterback when they got Emmitt Smith and a healthy Michael Irvin and an offensive line. So all those things play into factor into how these guys are going to turn out.
Mike, you got baseball this weekend, Texas, Oklahoma State. Enjoy it. That will be where? Where can we see it?
That'll be on ESPNU Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
Very good.
Carlos Pena, former major leaguer.
Very good. Have a safe trip. Enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys.
Thank you so much. Mike Morgan. Morgan on the moves. Always cherish Mike's thoughts and input on subjects of interest to us here in South Carolina. He's still one of us, even though he's one of them. He is still one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, he comes down here to drink the water now.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. All right. When we come back, Monty Lee will join us. We'll get the latest from the Tigers. We'll have recruiting for you as well coming up in our next hour. And Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino and Paul Johnson share their thoughts on their spring practices, teams that Clemson will be facing in the ACC this coming season. Getting them to be staying on top of that. Remember, if you lose us over the airwaves, stay with us on our website. Go to SportsTalkSC.com and click on the link to our YouTube feed. You can watch us, and you can listen as well. We'll be back. Probably try quiz. Yeah. Now give me just a second here. 2019 defensive back. Try quiz. Bridges of Lynette, Alabama. Of Lynette. Plans to visit Clemson Saturday. All right, you ready? Yeah, you're rolling. Try quiz. All righty. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. All right, coming down in 3 2 1. USC's on the short list for receiver Trey Turner of Greensboro, North Carolina. He recently announced the Gamecocks, Ole Miss, NC State, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Florida State, Louisville, and Miami are his final 10. He visited USC in late March. He's also a basketball prospect, and the Gamecocks have told him he can play both sports. Running back Zamir White of Laurinburg, North Carolina, one of the top running back prospects in the country. He's down to Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, North Carolina, and Alabama. Clemson's Tony Elliott was in to see him earlier this week. His coach says if he's reading the tea leaves right now, it looks like Georgia is the front runner. USC quarterbacks coach Kurt Roper met earlier this week with target Chase Wolf of Cincinnati. Duke was also in for a visit. Right now it's USC, Boston College, and Wisconsin at the top of his list. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports. What? That was 57 seconds? Are you sure? There is no way that could have been 57 seconds. 1. USC's on the short list. I know 50 seconds. 54 seconds. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports. USC's on the short list for receiver Trey Turner of Green. Chase Wolf thing then. Met earlier this week with target is the front runner. USC quarterbacks coach Kurt Roper met earlier this week with target Chase Wolf of is the front runner. USC quarterbacks coach Kurt Roper met earlier this week with target Chase Wolf of Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports.
Stumble off Grand Slam. Ooh.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, Here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back on Sports Talk, joined now by Clemson baseball coach Monty Lee. The Tigers have a big weekend ahead in Chapel Hill against an outstanding North Carolina team. It's the start of a really important stretch for the Tigers. Monty, a rugged stretch ahead, and next few weeks will be the determining factor in terms of the regular season on how this team stands come tournament time.
Well, it's going to be a tough test for us this weekend. North Carolina's, arguably, one of the top 3 teams in the country. From what a lot of people say, they have an excellent pitching staff. They've got a very balanced offense, very athletic team, good defensively. They say they have one of the best catchers in the country. Their Friday night guy is going to go in the first 3 to 5 picks of the draft. It's an awfully tough test for us, but it's a great test for us also. And I think at the end of the day, between this weekend, and I know we've got 4 weekends to go, and 3 of them in conference are going to be against really, really good opponents. It's going to test our team, but I don't know if we could have asked for a better opportunity to challenge our guys down the stretch here to get them ready for postseason play.
No question about that, and I'm sure as a coach of a team that has a knack for coming from behind, you'd love to get through some of these games without having to sweat it out. I mean, congratulations on having a group that never gives up and finds a way to win most times. But wouldn't you rather kind of go into that 9th inning with a cushion and not have to sweat it out?
Well, yeah, if I could draw it up, you'd love to win every game, 8-2, but it doesn't work out that way when you're facing really good pitching staffs and competitive programs like we do week in and week out in the ACC. So, the bottom line is you're going to get everybody's best. Even in the middle of the week, we get everybody's best effort because everybody, obviously wants to come into Clemson and beat us. We're ranked pretty high, and thing of being in the other dugout when you play a bigger school, you want to show well. So we get everybody's best punch, and on the weekends, everybody's fighting to put themselves in a position to, either get into the postseason or host in the postseason. So they're just extremely serious. Our games are often tight, but, we just try to embrace, those pressure situations the best we can as a program and as a team. And, just tell our guys that, the tougher it is, the better we like it. And, this is what playing in the ACC is all about. This is why you come to Clemson. You come to Clemson to play in these types of series and in this type of environment.
Yeah, like you said, you eat pressure like candy, and that kind of thought can start with the coaching staff, but eventually the players have to kind of pick it up in the dugout, and someone or some people have to emerge as those leaders who do not let the team let down in tough situations. Who are those guys inside your dugout that you see are the ones that lift everybody up?
Well, it on the position player side, it starts with Andrew Cox. Andrew Cox is the most vocal player on the field. He's our first baseman. He's a 5th-year senior. He's played a lot of baseball for us here at Clemson. Chris Williams, our catcher. Pat Krall on our pitching staff. Alex Eubanks. They all do a really good job. Chase Pender. Charlie Barnes, those guys are all leaders, and they kind of police the team and run the program in the dugout, in the weight room, their practice, those types of things. They're kind of the core of our leadership on our team. Well, you know what? He's just extremely aggressive to the fastball right now, and he's using the whole field. Reese he's there right now. I can't tell you, what he's doing outside of he's just being very, very aggressive to anything that's over the plate, and he's on time to every fastball that he sees, and he's just squaring it up. He's just not missing them. He's just his swing right now. He's really staying through the middle of the field. He's hitting a lot of balls to the middle of the field, and he's just a tough out right now. He just believes he's going to get a hit every time he goes up there, and he may be the hottest hitter in college baseball right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Seth Beer seems like he's starting to, in terms of an average, get it going a little bit more. He's always had the power and the on-base percentage for you. I noted earlier this week he had, I think after this weekend, 43 hits and 43 walks on his batting line. So, I mean, that's good balance. And I guess a hitter like that, you expect he's going to get that average up closer to 300 as spring turns into summer.
Yeah, no, I think he will. And Seth's been squaring a lot of balls up here lately, and he's taking his walks, which is always a good sign too, because, he's a very disciplined hitter, and he does a good job of getting on base in front of Chris Williams, if I have Chris hitting behind him, or Logan Davidson and Andrew Cox and those guys. So, I think Seth understands that discipline at the plate is a big part of who he is. And he's doing a good job for us. And hopefully, he can catch fire and, and square up some baseballs against this tough North Carolina team. We're going to need some guys to step up offensively because statistically, North Carolina pitching staff in our league, one of the best pitching staffs in the country. So it's going to be a tough test for our guys.
Yeah, and I saw North Carolina when they played South Carolina in Charlotte, and they beat the Gamecocks that night pretty easily. And in their batting order, the top part, really tough. There's not a lot of easy outs, and they have very good speed at the top of their order.
Yeah, they're very balanced. I've talked to a number of scouts about them who have seen them and done a good bit of research on their team. And the one thing that everybody keeps saying about them is just they're very athletic top to bottom. You don't see a big drop off or a big difference in their hitters 1 through 9. They're all similar guys. They all have bat speed. They can hit the ball to all fields. They'll hit and run. They'll steal. They try to put pressure on you with their athleticism and their foot speed. They'll bunt for hits. They'll sacrifice bunt. They just try to put pressure on the defense. So, the key is with teams like that is you got to execute pitches and get your leadoff outs. If we get leadoff outs every inning, it can limit your opportunities to put those wheels in motion when you get runners on base. So big key for us is we've got to pitch. We got a pretty good pitching staff too, and we've got to throw the ball well this weekend and try to limit their base runners because it could be tough. I mean, it could be tough for us to score a bunch of runs against guys like Bukauskas and Delatry who we're facing in games 1 and 2.
Yeah, no question about that. What about the health of your team? Anybody dealing with anything that's going to keep them out?
The only guy that we've got down right now is Ryan Miller, who's a big part of our bullpen. We're hopefully going to get him back. He's been shut down. He had Tommy John surgery inflammation in his elbow. Cautious with him. He's going to be fine, but it's probably going to be somewhere between 3 to 4 weeks before he's able to pitch again. We're just being very, very cautious with him. There's no structural damage or anything like that. But he does that, we're in pretty good shape. So hopefully, knock on wood, we can stay healthy down the stretch here because we need every guy in that dugout healthy and ready to go if we want to try to finish strong here.
Okay, Monty Lee, we talked to him earlier today before the Tigers went out on the practice field. This North Carolina 33-9, 21-7 at home. And men on that midweek game against USC, Logan Warmoth batting .348 on the season, 7 home runs, 15 steals, and 18 attempts. Brian Miller batting .322, 5 homers, 18 steals, and 22 attempts. Those are guys at the top of the order for North Carolina, so they can hit with a little power and steal a base. So Chris Williams behind the plate, the pitchers getting the ball to the plate. They're going to have to be very good when those guys do get on base. North Carolina has stolen 56 of 77. They also bunt well and bunt a lot. They've got 20 sacrifice bunts on the season, so they move guys along as well that way too. Going to be a great matchup between the Tigers and the Tar Heels. Recruiting coming up after this break. All right, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us here on this Thursday night. Haven't had time to take calls, but you know what? 800-956-7266, 800-956-7266. Our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, our Twitter address is @SportsTalkSC. We'll make time for your phone calls. Coming up here in just a little bit after recruiting and after we tell you that insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten forests and campsites and parks. Protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. Let's give you the recruiting report for tonight. First of all, receiver Trey Turner from Greensboro, North Carolina, recently announced a top 10. USC is in it. He's also a big-time basketball prospect, and USC and most of the other schools have told him, yes, you can play both sports. He said his relationship with USC receivers coach Brian McClendon is a primary reason USC is strongly in the mix, says the two of them are tight. Last season, 52 catches, 1,065 yards, 13 touchdowns. He also plays safety and is a backup quarterback. He visited USC in late March, and he liked what he saw, got a chance to visit the campus and the academic side of things. He said the fact USC's basketball team did so well also was meaningful to him, and he likes Frank Martin and the way he coaches his guys up and the kind of defense they play. He's also been to Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Florida State, NC State, and Duke. Nothing planned for the future. He's got a lot of AAU stuff coming up in basketball. No summer camps are planned. No timetable on a decision. No favorite. He will be a December graduate. The others on his short list are Ole Miss, NC State, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Florida State, Louisville, and Miami. Running back Zamir White's a very big name if you follow recruiting. Some are calling him the number one running back in the 2018 class. Quite a story. He was a premature baby who weighed 2 pounds at birth and overcame a lot of things as an infant. He's now 6'1", 220, and great speed. He just won the 100-meter championship on the track for his region yesterday. He's down to Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, North Carolina, Alabama. He's been to each multiple times. June 27th, his mother's birthday, is his announcement date. Clemson recruiter Tony Elliott, along with his counterparts from Ohio State, North Carolina, and Alabama, have been in this week, according to Scotland County coach Richard Bailey. And Georgia is due in this week as well. The coach tells us that White's getting really tired of the recruiting, all the interviews. He doesn't really want to talk to anybody about it, that kind of stuff. He was at Clemson for the spring game, and the coach says that he liked the facilities, the atmosphere at Clemson, all of that. He likes Tony Elliott, likes Dabo Swinney. And the coach says that the coach, would feel good about him going to Clemson, but that he doesn't care where he goes as long as he's happy. He's been to Ohio State, and he said Ohio State's making a strong push, but the coach said it's Georgia, in his opinion, that is the team to beat. He's been there several times, 3 or 4 in the last 2 or 3 months, and he said something is keeping him going back to Georgia. The coach said, if I'm reading the tea leaves, I would say Georgia is in the lead, but I would definitely not rule out those other people. That's according to the coach. White is planning to graduate early, enroll in January. He's rushed for over 3,800 yards and scored 67 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. USC quarterback coach Kurt Roper was in on Wednesday to visit quarterback Chase Wolf of Cincinnati. Duke also was in for a visit. He visited USC in March. Wolf said Roper gave him more clarity on where he stands on his quarterback recruiting board. He said that Roper told him, if you have an offer from him, then you're good enough to play for him. So he really doesn't have a ranking board. Wolf said USC, Boston College, and Wisconsin rank as his top 3 at this point. USC target running back Levante Valentine, Melbourne, Florida, was offered by Louisville. He's expecting his recruiter from USC, Bobby Bentley, to visit next week. USC target defensive end Azeez Ojulari, Marietta, Georgia, offered by Georgia. USC offered the following: 2019 receiver Jeremiah Payton, Neptune Beach, Florida. 2019 offensive lineman Renato Brown, West Palm Beach, Florida. 2019 defensive back Akeem Dent, West Palm Beach, Florida. Tennessee's also offered. 2019 defensive end William Norton of Memphis, his first offer. 2020 offensive lineman Ray Curry of Memphis, his first offer. And 2020 defensive lineman Tonka Hemingway of Conway, his first offer. Youngest brother of former Conway and Michigan receiver Junior Hemingway, who is now with Kansas City. Conway defensive lineman Raekwon O'Neal, offered by Illinois. Defensive back Jalon Reed of Olive Branch, Mississippi, committed to Tennessee. USC among his offers. South Point defensive back Stephen Gilmore Jr., offered by Kansas State. 2019 defensive back Triquez Bridges of Lynette, Alabama, plans to visit Clemson Saturday. A player who visited Clemson yesterday, defensive back A.J. Litton out of Maryland, tonight announced a commitment to Florida State. And in basketball, Georgetown offered 6'7" Jimmy Nichols Jr. of Conway. And according to his father, 6'4" Sharon Wright Jr. will transfer out of West Florence High School for the next school year. Not sure where he's headed yet, but apparently going to leave the PD.
IMG.
The latest. Think about the city of Florence, man. You lose Zion Williamson to the upstate. You lose Xavier Thomas to IMG.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to lose Sharon Wright to somewhere.
Where is he going?
We don't know. I just said he's just leaving, according to his dad. Don't know where. There you go with recruiting here on Sports Talk. We remind you and recommend to you that you follow along with our recruiting coverage on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. The hashtag ST Recruiting will take you to our stories and to retweets of other stories. We're not bashful that we will not bring to you stories of interest from other people writing legitimate recruiting information out there for you. All right, so check it out. Now, we got time for calls. 800-956-7266. We go to Cockett in Columbia. Good evening, Cockett. How are you? What? Did he just hang up on himself? I mean, that's kind of hard to do. How do you hang up on yourself like that? All right, thank you, Cockett. Probably the best phone call we've ever gotten from. It was short between those ears, which was nothing.
Wow.
Okay.
Hey, now you're hitting below the belt. We have to throw a flag.
800-956-7266 is the phone number. Now, the actual draft begins at what time, the first pick?
I think it's at 8.
8 o'clock?
8.
First 15, it'll start at 8, but
ridiculous. Why? It's all for television purposes,
Yeah,
of course.
West Coast people.
I mean, I remember when the draft used to be, what, on a Saturday afternoon?
Oh, no, it'd be Tuesday morning. And they go straight through, remember?
Tuesday morning?
Yeah, Tuesday morning. At about, the ESPN would start their coverage at 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Then the first pick would be about 9, and they go straight through. Be 2 or 3 in the morning. They still, about the 15th round?
You really can't call it ESPN. You have to call it what's left of ESPN. You can't really refer to it as ESPN anymore. The Shell.
the Shell station.
No, but you say the Shell station, but it was owned by Getty Oil. Remember, they're the ones originally Getty Oil.
Back when it was good. Back when it was a good sports reporting service.
They didn't have live broadcasting because the NCAA wouldn't let them. Remember, they would play games tape delay.
Oh yeah, of those things. I mean, they used to have live tractor pulls and stuff like that. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina. Radio Network, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. LSU and Alabama underway in game one of their weekend series in Tuscaloosa. Man, Alabama baseball really in the pits. They've not been able to turn that thing around. They've gone through how many different coaches here in recent years. Probably the worst team in the league at this point. 2-16 in league play, 15-26 overall for Alabama. Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. You look at the ACC, you figure of the 14 teams, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, at this point, probably out of the mix for postseason. The other 11 definitely in the mix for postseason at this point in time. That includes an Ole Miss team that's 9-9, 25-16. I mean, look at the West. I mean, you've got Mississippi State in front by a game, and then Arkansas and Auburn next, and then LSU and Texas A&M only 2 back at 10-8. And Ole Miss is in 6th place in the West at 9-9.
And that was one of the teams I thought would be better, but then again, it's just those teams are playing much better above them. It's not that they don't have a good team. It's just they haven't won, like the Gamecocks, they haven't won the close ones.
John Mark, should we call an ambulance for you? You okay?
We're good.
You all right? You sound like you're going down. I can tell. You sound like you're going down fast.
You know,
listen to that voice.
This voice is something I've been trying to work on for many times.
Trying
to be the next Barry White.
It sounds much better.
Oh, darling.
Can you sort of, keep the bug, but I mean, so it helps your voice? I mean, you really got a nice.
Yeah, it's a nice little raspy broadcasting voice now. Here.
I like that. All right, now what's going on here? Who are they introducing? What's this?
Oh no, I just get some of the guys out.
Are these some of the guys who? No, these are parents from here. Is that right? All right. Anyway, let's talk some football.
Fournette.
Who is that?
Leonard Fournette.
Okay, so they're bringing it out. Maybe these are some of the people who are going to be in the green room.
In the green room.
Waiting tonight? That's what we're getting.
Ones to be sweating in the green room.
Absolutely. Which one's going to have the camera? Have 3 hours into this thing, we'll have the camera pointed at them.
Who was the guy that they forced Cleveland to take that year? Brady Quinn.
Brady Quinn.
Stuck in the green room, and they just felt sorry for him. Come on, take one for the team, Cleveland.
There's Deshaun Kaiser. Yeah, it's amazing how leading up to the draft, the rumors, the guy who's really taken is the corner Connolly from Ohio State with the rape allegation against him. I mean, he's fallen out of the first round according to the analyst, and maybe as far down as 3rd round. Like that, reports of urine specimens being funny or marijuana tests turning up positive, things like that can just ruin it for you into draft night. So, but it's a big night for these guys. They have certainly worked their entire to make it to this point, and I can't, to hear your name called out and to be handed that jersey's got to be a cool feeling. I'm just killing time here until we see Deshaun Watson come out.
That's why you tread lightly, because you never know what kind of enemies you're making out there. Jeremy Tunstall had no idea somebody's going to release that video and put it on YouTube the night of the draft. That up.
Look at that. Is Cam Robinson wearing a blue suit? Is that just the light reflecting?
I think it's a suit.
He is a big dude. What do you think Deshaun's wearing? I think Deshaun's going to come out into something outer or something more subdued.
I think
he wouldn't wear purple, would he?
I think he's
orange.
going to come out with something a little bit more subdued.
I think I see him. He's like in line waiting to be announced.
It'll be Madison Avenue.
Yeah, that must mean he's out there.
I know he's there, but he's not in the line being announced by them.
I don't know. He might sneak it out there.
Oh, that's Trubisky.
Watson.
Look at that. Trubisky standing and Watson coming out.
Yeah.
They were side by side with each other. I wonder what Trubisky has to say to Deshaun about some of his comments. Here comes Deshaun. Let's see. Deshaun looking pretty dapper. He's not wearing a tie, I don't think. He's got an open suit coat there and just looking kind of casual. They're doing these guys by alphabetical order, and so he was the next to last to come out. Who's that last one to come out? A little short guy, whoever it was. He's wearing a bow tie.
He's wearing the purple.
Deshaun's wearing a black bow tie.
He's wearing the purple. My point is this: if anybody talks trash about me before the draft, am I worried about it? In about a few hours, I'll probably be a new millionaire. So I don't care what you say.
That's true. I mean, all these guys, the bank accounts are gonna all take a big pop. Now, what scene is that with people outside? Looks like by the thousands. Where's that?
That's in Philly.
Are people outside to do what?
Remember last year in Chicago, they did the same thing. They opened up all kinds of venues and stuff. Now they made it a happening. They made the draft are happening instead of just doing it in New York. They're starting to bid it around.
Wait a minute. Was that an open arena that they're where are they doing this? They're not inside their stadium, are they? This is indoors, isn't it?
The part of it is indoors, but there's people outside too.
That's no, look at that. That's where the stage is. That's in an open like a hangar type thing.
There might be the stadium. Might be the football
inside
stadium.
the foot. But you can't risk having the draft outdoors because of the possibility of rain or something.
Well, they would have moved it to somewhere because I think the arena is next door. So they're just moving into the arena.
I mean, look at that. I've never seen so many people at the NFL draft before. That's thousands of people. That's not hundreds. That's thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're about to do the national anthem. How many guys will take a knee or something like that? They wouldn't do that on the night of the draft.
Not with those new suits on, no.
Unbelievable. All right. Before we hit the break, earlier this week we had the ACC spring wrap-up conference call. We heard from Dabo Swinney last night. One of his chief competitors in the Atlantic Division, of course, will be Florida State with head coach Jimbo Fisher. Here is Jimbo's take on his team's spring.
Yes, just finished up a very, very productive spring. First of all and foremost, guys will all be healthy when fall camp comes around, which will be good, and never lost anybody, which is always a big thing. But had a very physical, very tough spring. Kids competed very hard in practice. Thought we made a lot of progress in a lot of areas, and very happy with where we come out of spring practice. And ended up a good recruiting cycle, and then cycle. So very good at where we're at. Have a great off season. Still have a lot of work to do as a team. We have a chance to have a good team, but we're far from perfect and have a lot of things to work on this summer and fall camp. But about where I thought we'd be at this time, and still, a work in progress to trying to be the team that we can be.
I know certainly filling in the shoes of a guy like Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers comes in with a ton of hype and certainly seemed to live up to it this spring. How have you seen him kind of handle the amount of attention that he's gotten, and what about him makes you think he's kind of ready to not just be the guy who can run really well like Dalvin did, but sort of handle the amount of focus and attention that's going to come on to him in replacing a guy that good with as much hype as he has?
Well, he's done what he's asked to do, but there's a lot of other guys in that mix. Jacquez Patrick did a tremendous job. Ryan Green had a great spring. We're counting on him very heavily. Amir Rasul, and Cam had his times too, along with Jonathan Vickers, the fullback and Neighbors. So, there was a lot of other scenarios in there. Cam come in he just went to work, never said anything, had good work with the other guys. So, to say Cam is our guy is not necessarily. We have a lot of guys in that group, and right now Jacquez and those guys, the experience, are playing right there with him.
Okay, the comments of Jimbo Fisher. The NFL draft is being staged on the Ben Franklin Parkway. They had some rain yesterday, and it slowed down the building of the stage. Of course, it's all done now. The stadium, it's not an arena. It's at a stage built on the Ben Franklin Parkway.
Look like they're having an inauguration.
Noon today. I have never seen so many people.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a good thing, or it could be, you're in Philadelphia. They pretty much hate everything. There's going to be a lot of booing as these picks are announced. Back in a moment. mean, you got people there who aren't going to see a darn thing there in Philly. They are so far away and so far outside. It's just a big party. Just another reason in Philly to get drunk tonight and cuss at somebody and start a fight and maybe a fire or two. You know how they do things in Philadelphia.
City of brotherly love.
LSU has jumped on Alabama 3-0. Top of the first of that ball game in Tuscaloosa. Back to a little more from the ACC Spring Football Conference call from yesterday. Another major competitor this season, Louisville, and that guy. I will block the ring.
I was really happy with the way our kids came out and worked hard and practiced and improved in spring ball. It was fun to see our new defensive staff and what they were doing out there. We were able to get some guys off the injury list that came out and played and showed they'll be back, and that'll help us a lot. Offensively, I thought Lamar had a good spring. Got to know some of the new receivers. And also it was fun to see our offensive line work together under Coach Summers. So overall, it was a good spring. We are looking forward to the development that we have in the summer and getting everything done.
Good morning. What was your approach with Lamar Jackson this spring as you look to build upon the good year he had last year?
Yeah, we worked hard on him playing under the center and doing the things we like to do from under the center. We worked hard on throwing the ball down the field and him really improving on his progression reads and his sets in the pocket. I thought he did a good job of really working hard on concentrating and focusing on seeing the defenses and the safeties and linebacker movements. So I was happy with what we did with them in the spring, and we thought that we made the spring game both teams equal. Lamar became a big difference in the spring game.
Okay, Bobby Petrino, a few of his comments. And now we do this as a public service for our listeners here on Sports Talk. For those of you who just can't fall asleep at night, you have a hard time, you're restless, you can't get your mind to shut down just because so many things are running through it, you suffer from insomnia. As a public service to you, we bring you a few comments from Georgia Tech coach Paul Johnson.
What a cheap shot.
Who, of course, Clemson will face. He's from the other division, but Clemson plays Georgia Tech every year. It's always a tough game for the most part because of what Tech does. But, again, record this. If you have trouble sleeping at night, just play this on a loop over and over again, and I promise you within 5 minutes you'll be asleep. Here's Paul Johnson's take on his spring.
Well, good morning. I thought that this spring, I think that we got a lot of things done, had a lot of young guys, young players, and we were able to evaluate them to a great extent. And all in all, I don't think for the season injury-wise, so when you can do that, that's always a positive as well. So happy with the outcome of spring, and hopefully we can take that and have come to fall camp ready to go.
Good morning. What did you learn about your quarterbacks during spring ball?
Well, we had 4 guys who were actually playing quarterback this spring, and I was pleased with all 4. Matthew Jordan went down about the second week of spring, but that enabled, we had a couple of redshirt freshmen, Lucas Johnson and Jay Jones, who had really good springs, and so did Taquan Marshall. So I was happy with our quarterbacks. I think we could play with any of those guys.
What area did you leave spring ball thinking, geez, we still have some work to do in August to get this thing shorn up?
Well, I don't know if I would single out any. I mean, we've got to work in all the areas. I don't think that we're set, anywhere. But I think we made progress in all the areas. And right now, I wouldn't have one that I would single out. We've got probably less experience up front on defense inside than anywhere else. But, I think some guys had decent springs there as well.
Okay, Paul Johnson, coach at Georgia Tech. Actually, he had a little more excitement in his delivery there than normal.
Well, he's beaten Georgia, 2 out of the last 3 years?
I think so.
So maybe that's why he's so happy.
That's not great shakes beating Georgia. I mean, what does that do for you?
That keeps you employed at Georgia Tech?
I mean, you go and listen to him at ACC Media Days when he sits down behind the table in front of everybody, and it's hard to keep the head up.
It's still kind of intimidating, I guess, for some coaches, not all. To see all the assistants on the sideline, this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing there, no headset on, no chart. He's just coaching by feel, once in a while rolling up that sleeve. And that's the way he coaches.
The PGA Tour stop this week is New Orleans, the Zurich Classic, and they're doing something different. They're playing team golf. They got golfers paired together in teams of 2. And let's see, today and Sunday, they're playing 4-ball, I think, and tomorrow and Saturday it's best ball. Kyle Stanley, the team of Kyle Stanley and Ryan Ruffles, is tied with Jordan Spieth and Ryan Palmer for the lead at 6 under par, something new they're doing on the PGA Tour. Ben Martin and Ben Crane tied at 5 under. Lucas Glover and Chez Reavie tied at 3 under. How about this pairing? Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown, couple of USC Aiken guys playing together there at -2. All right, just a few moments ago on ESPN, who was the interviewer? It was Susie Colbert.
Yeah.
Susie Colbert.
I just want to kiss you, Susie Colbert.
Susie Colbert talked to Mitchell Trubisky and Deshaun Watson simultaneously, side by side. Let's pick it up.
We both, like you said, it's out of our hands, so it's just a waiting game from here on out. We already put the work in. It's a blessing to be here, and we're just going to have fun with it tonight.
Poise under pressure has kind of been the calling card for both of you guys. But what's been most challenging just about handling all of this?
The biggest for me is just being able to travel and work out at the same time. I think that's been the biggest. As far as the interviews and working out, that's the easy part. But trying to find time to work out and be balanced is the hard part.
And now in the last hours in the countdown, what's communication been like with any of these teams?
I have no idea. I haven't had my phone on me, so I have no idea. My agent's probably talking to somebody, but me, I'm just relaxing, trying to not think about it and just enjoy the night.
How about you? Have you heard anything?
Nothing. It's been mystery. We don't know what's about to go on, and so it's a waiting game, like I said.
Well, we can't wait to find out. Look forward to seeing both on the stage tonight.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I mean, you could have asked Mitchell what he thought of Deshaun's comments about a slap in the face. He said, he's quoted as saying, it'll be a slap in the face of my face if Trubisky is picked ahead of me.
Get ready to get slapped. No, I'm just kidding. Now, who knows?
Who knows? I've seen, in looking at the different mocks today, and I think people are just mocking just for the sake of mocking because their bosses say, give me a mock draft. And they're throwing, I mean, I've seen Deshaun taken by the Chargers. I've seen him taken by the Browns. Was it the Browns with their second pick? By the Jags, by the Texans. I mean, he's all over the chart. Some of these mock drafts.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Kansas City's another one.
Buffalo.
Yeah. So, hey, you know what? He'll land somewhere, and he's going to make a ton of money.
I tell you what, if he goes to San Diego.
The Saints?
Not San Diego. They don't go to San Diego
Well,
anymore.
that's right. They did in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles Chargers.
Which is
in a 30,000, you're going to play in a 30,000 seat stadium. I was talking to a guy in California earlier this week who's been a Chargers season ticket holder in San Diego for many, many years. He actually lives in Orange County, so it's more convenient for him, but he can't get tickets. It's sold out.
There you go.
I mean, the long time Chargers season ticket holders got first dibs on the tickets in L.A., and apparently it's all been sold out.
And, of course, that's where they started, the Los Angeles Chargers, before they moved to San Diego.
I hate that San Diego's losing the team, though. I mean, that
is sad. They should have built them a stadium. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're asking the taxpayers to do something they didn't want to do.
Hey, do it.
Yeah.
Well, lose your team then.
That's what happened.
Too bad.
That's going to do it. Jarmart, I hope you feel better. Don't keel on us here. Pro, have a great night. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We'll wrap it up this week tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.